making a damn fool out of myself. I'm not about that.
I love how I've set it to default of muting my mic. I did this exact same thing last week. Spoke for about 10 minutes. So, basically, just to review what I already said. The models were mostly painted with Citadel contrast paints. The armor was done with Dark Angels green, and then highlighted with Warpstone Glow and Moot green. The gold parts were contrast. Yeah, you can hear me now. The gold parts were painted with contrast Eandon yellow, and then dry brushed with Retributor gold, which let it pop with colour. The rest of the metallics were done just with lead belcher, which I then washed with Nuln Oil and then dry brushed again with more lead belcher. The red plumes were done with Flesh Terror red. And then the cloaks were done with Agaros Dunes and some Templar Black. And I really liked the way that everything sort of came up. It was my first experiment with actually doing highlights in a long time, and it was quite a thought-provoking process, trying to think of like where the highlights should be on the models and that sort of thing. So I'm really proud about how they came out. Last week I unboxed this Redgrass palette, wet palette. I don't know if you can see, but I've been painting most of the week with these colours, and most of them are still wet. So I'm pretty impressed with how the wet palette has worked out. Super happy with how the wet palettes are. We've been selling wet palettes faster than we can get them in, which is really cool. We knew that they would be popular, and like I said last week, I've been waiting about 6 months for them to come in. I was originally going to order one direct from Spain, where they're manufactured, because one of my favourite streamers, when it comes to painting stuff, like it's going to take me another bloody 10-15 years to get to his level, but Age of Squidmar on YouTube, he's absolutely phenomenal painter. So thank you, Focus. I'm really happy with how they came out, and I'm glad that others think that it looks good too. Yes, the red grass palettes. We've also got some red grass brushes in, which I haven't tried out, but I have this week been trying out some other brushes. We don't stock these in our store, but I was in Spotlight picking up some other stuff for my wife, and I got these Princeton ones. So I just got a 0, a 2 and a 4. I also got this 6 for basing really large stuff, I guess. But I didn't use that yet. I've used these 3, and they're fully synthetic brushes, and I feel like they've been pretty good. All of those Stormcasts were painted using that, and they came out really nicely. Mark, if you know our store, Tabletop Warfare, Mark is one of the guys that I work with there. Mark ordered in these Icon Hardy or Leon Hardy brushes during the week that we're gonna give a go, and so we got a 1, a 3.0 and a 2.0 here to have a go with. On first inspection, Marcus said he's not feeling entirely impressed, because I mean, if you can see that, I'll try and focus in on it. Maybe I can get more focus on the camera if I change the settings here and focus in. So straight out of shipping. Come on, there we go. Straight out of shipping. This is what we're met with. Like, it doesn't have a very fine tip on it. It's already splayed out, so I'm not super keen to see what these come out like. Let's look at this number 1. Again, like, it's not the best quality looking brush. So these Leon Hardy brushes are about, I think they were like $1 each. See, all splayed out the side here. The Princeton ones that I bought, I think they were maybe they were in a set of 4, and I think it was like $5 for the set of 4, but they're synthetic, whereas these Leon Hardy ones, they look to be some sort of hair-based brush. This one almost looks like it's been used already. Oh dear, it's all clumped up. So is that one. Ew. Alright, well. And then obviously you get onto your Citadel brushes, where you're running $4 or $5 each, and your things like your Army Painter brushes that come in a set for between, I think it's $18 and $35 for just the generic ones that, or they're not really generic, but you know, the ones that they are mass produced for retailers like us to sell. I think $15 to $20 for the Army Painters D&D brushes that come in a set of 3 as well. It's all some, you know, there are some people out there that say it's not necessarily the brushes, it's the skill of the painter. But if you've got a shitty painter and shitty brushes, who knows what you'll get. I'm not a pro by any stretch of the word. So tonight I'm gonna try and paint Birdie Boy. As I was explaining last week, I've had this eagle sitting on my desk for about a year. I did heaps of research in the initial like month or so about how to do feathers, and I've got heaps of stock photos from the internet of eagles in the wild and stuff like that to draw inspiration from, which I haven't looked at in forever. I'm not even sure if they're on this machine. Let's see if I can find a folder with some birds. No, definitely think that they're on my other computer, but that's okay. Phone is pinging at me. Yes, the eagle. That's it. Yes, the eagle. Alright. I'm gonna have to pull up a quick video. I'm pretty sure that this is a Duncan video that I've got in my list. Everybody wants to message me. What's going on up here? Alright. You're muted. So this music, if anybody's wondering, I've basically just got a video running in the background from Royal Lab Stats. I personally just but I'm interested in seeing what is happening with the coronavirus that we're going through at the moment. And it's basically a stats video that they've got running that runs constantly. Giving up-to-date information about where it's all at the moment. So the video that I'm watching, I don't know if I can put it up on the stream. I'm basically watching Duncan. It's a video from June 29th, 2017. Oof, I'm not painting it blue. On the Warhammer TV channel, where he's painting an ether wing. The video was basically just to see what kind of technique he's doing, because even though it's like blue, I'm pretty sure that it'll translate somewhat, even if it is blue on blue on blue that he's doing. What I can do, I'm pretty sure, is I can share a link to it in the chat. You're considering buying a starter kit to paint something, but you're not sure what. How do you guys do online ordering? So, as far as online ordering goes, if you're local, we can do delivery for orders over $50 while the isolation rules are in effect. Like I said, I think I said last week, we've got a couple of D&D start painting sets. They've got between, I think, 16 and 32 paints in them. I think the bigger one has a brush in it as well. And each of the boxes has got a model in it that you can paint, so that you can practice painting on those things. All them people messaging, they're the guys that I have been streaming Realm Royale with. They're trying to organise a squad for tonight for Spectral Saints stream of Realm Royale. So yeah, if you want to order a paint kit, your best bet is to jump over to our Facebook page, facebook.com/tabletop warfare. chuck us a message if you let them know that you were watching me, Kieran, on the Twitch channel. I'll most probably be able to reply to your message between 10 and 7, 10 a.m, 7 p.m while we're actually open, and we can send you through some photos of what products are in stock that we can organise to ship to you or deliver if you're within our delivery area. So we're delivering anywhere within 20 kilometres of the store currently for a small fee. So yeah, I've lost my train of thought. Yes, so video, Duncan video. So he's basically got himself a nice dark base coat. He's gone over the second row of feathers. I don't know what you call the different rows of feathers, with a slightly brighter, lighter colour, and then all the what I think are the what you refer to as the pin feathers, the ends of the feathers he's gone with a much lighter colour. Then he's washed the whole thing to bring the colours down and to tie it together with a common colour. And then I think he's about to go back in with a dry brush. Yeah, he's going back in with a dry brush of the original colours just to pick up the high spots with a much stronger bit of that colour. And then I think he's going to go back in with the lightest colour again and do that as well. Yeah, that's definitely what he's doing. Righto. So, now I need to find the right colour. So, tonight I have actually gotten myself, so I've got my good old by Automate, my nice little wet palette here. I reckon it might need a little bit more water now. It's been, oh, she might be alright for now. Right at the very edge, that should be fine. Like a couple of kilometres isn't that horrible. I think heading south from Gawler 20 kilometres is right on Saints Road. It goes all the way out to like Two Wells in Virginia, and then out as that's to the west, out to like Williamstown in the east, and up to I think it's Worsley's north of Gawler. So during the week we got in a new range of paints as well. So typically the last couple of years we've stocked Citadel, which is the Games Workshop paint, which is all this stuff that I was using last week. When we moved to our current location, we got into Vallejo Game Colour as well, which are these ones, which I have a small selection of that I've been using for a while, particularly for like these brighter colours that I have. Especially this magic blue, which is like one of my favourite blues, but I haven't painted much with it. I've also got a lighter shade of gold than the Retributor armour that I was using on the other stuff. A leather brown, and a dead white, which is like, or Arctic white, which is very, very bright white, or brighter than the white that I've got from Citadel. And then just recently, the point of my ramblings, we just recently this week got in Reaper paints. So this is some of the Reaper paint that we got, which is the core colours and the HD. So this is something that I wanted to play around with this week. So I've got myself a bit of, just shaking them up a bit of ruddy leather, which is a bit of a traditional kind of brown, what you would expect from a brown, and then some maroon red, because I was thinking about maybe, you know, it's an eagle, it might go into those sort of colours. Gonna do a quick search for a wedge. What's the Australian eagle? It's a wedge tail, isn't it? Yeah, wedge tail. Can I add? That's where you are, north. Okay, Wasleys. Yep, I'm fairly certain that it goes out to Wasleys. I don't have the. I can't remember what page we were using to make the circles, but yeah. Let's see if I can. If I'm skilled enough to add a. See if I'm skilled enough to add. Am I going to regular rainbow and sparkles? No. It's not. It's not an American eagle. Where are we? Window capture. Add it, and then see if this works. Apparently it won't work. Alright, that's no good. Maybe it's because of wedge tail. Let's try that. Yeah, it's in. You can add image. Okay. Cancel. Remove image. Oh no. Display. Is that safe? Yeah, it doesn't want to share Chrome, so I got nothing important open. I think. This is all a learning curve. These are early days. We get the all the bugs worked out in these first couple of streams and work towards getting better with what I'm doing. Display, add source, source. Oof. Yeah, sure. It's not going to fit very well, but transform. screen. Wait, that should have... There it is. If I just shift this down, shift this up, then I won't get too in the way. Okay, so let's stick this on the other screen. It's here. It's all good? Cool. Alright, so if I transition here, you can see what I'm looking at. Haha! So this is me googling the old wedge-tailed eagle. So this is the kind of boy that I wanted to kind of paint. He doesn't have a lot of colour to him, but he's our native eagle here in Australia. He's a big bird. And there's our most irritating bird, the oldie magpie. Subsequently, my family's football team. Okay. So, what it's looking like, if I transition back over to here, that's it, you definitely can. So, what we're looking at probably then, after going for having a look at that video, those pictures, we're gonna get a nice middle brown to put across the whole body, and then on the central feathers I'm gonna do something along the lines of our leather brown, or something like a beastly brown, and then on the end feathers we're going to darken it down quite a bit. So if I pull out my chest of paint here, because those are the paints that I've just got sitting on the shelf over there. Probably get into something closer to Dryad bark, which is a Citadel paint, or we might even mix in something like it's that Mornfang brown to it to give it a bit more of a brown tint, not so much darkness. Then we'll wash it all down with where's my wash? Wash it all down with this Agrax Earthshade, which is it's a sort of natural dirty fire kind of. Yes, snazzy animation that I acquired from a tutorial because it was the best looking transition that I could find, and it did the job. So this Agrax Earthshade is like to it gives stuff like a natural dirty look, but it'll tie together the browns as well. When you're doing like industrial stuff like buildings and mechanical things, you use something like a Nuln Oil, which is more of a greyish blackish wash. Yeah, our Citadel rack at the moment is looking pretty sorry for itself. There's huge gaps everywhere. We got no blacks, no greys, no whites. A lot of the solid colours. So your fairly solid blues and greens and stuff like that are starting to run out. I've had quite a few people come in this week because they're under the impression that Games Workshop is going to be reopening because of some rumours that were circulating on the internet. Information that I have from our rep is that it's all tied to the UK government at the moment, so they're taking their advice from the UK government. When the UK government says that it's fine to start congregating again is when they'll start their factories up. So it's getting low, but it's not completely churned out. So there's still plenty of stuff there, and that was the other reason for getting the Reaper range of paints in as well. We also got some huge paint kits in. Like I said before, like we've got the D&D ones which have between 16 and 32 paints in them, but we also got the Vallejo complete kits, which are there's a game color kit which is one of every paint in the game color range. There's also a mecha kit which I believe is one of every paint from their technicals and metallics range, which is pretty fancy too. Those two paint kits are between, if I remember correctly, between $250 and $340 because you're getting 70. I think you're getting 50 to 70 paints in both individual cases. So there's a lot of gear in there. But that's just off the top of my head. I'm not even sure how accurate I am on those prices. It gives you a ballpark idea, and that's a complete set of paint. I mean, looking in front of me here now, I've got about 45, 50 paints, and they're a big. The essentials kits, the D&D ones are sort of essentials kits. They give you the stuff that is sort of all the main colours, I guess I would say. Whereas the Citadel one, fairly certain that we're most probably out of those. There's a couple of build and paint kits. I'm pretty sure that the essentials kit is out. The D&D ones are close, but you would need to get your own glues and snips on top of that. So they, if you were to get the Citadel essentials kit, I'm pretty sure you get a small glue, you get a small set of snips, you get the paints, you get a smaller pot of wash. I think you also get a texture paint as well for doing your bases. So I don't have a proper stand to do this guy on other than his actual stand, but the actual stand doesn't stick together at the moment. So reach under my table and I'll whip out some blue tack that I've got there, and I'll put it on that stand and see if I can get him to stick to that a bit better for while I'm painting. Normally with other miniatures, you either glue them down to their base or peg them down to their base, or you have other things that you can stick them to. if his base, yeah, his base will fit into this. These painting handles are also out of stock, unfortunately. I've got mega painting handles, but that's not going to help you today. So. The dark brown. What dark brown are we going to start on? Where's that bird photo? Alright. I reckon we're gonna start here with so unlike last week where I was painting with contrast paints, this week I'm going to paint with some traditional paints. So this is a slightly different way of painting compared to what I was doing last week. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit it with this Mornfang brown to begin with. Actually, I changed my mind already. I'm going to hit it with this Dryad bark. So it's a pretty dark brown. And then the mid feathers. The mid feathers I'm going to hit with this VX88. And then what I reckon I'll do with the final, with the end feathers, I'm going to get my Abaddon Black here, and I'm going to make a mix of these two, so that it will darken down the Dryad bark to do the feathers on the tips. Yeah, that's what I reckon we're going to do. And then we'll hit it with the probably starting too dark. I always do that. Nah, I changed my mind again. We're going to go, instead of the Dryad bark, we're going to go the Mornfang, then this, then the Dryad bark on those tail feathers. There we go. That's what we're going to do. I've made the decision. That's what I'm sticking with. So, first thing we got to do, we got to base this boy. So we got a lot of basing to do on that. So I'm going to grab out the number 6. I'm going to get the number 6 going, because that'll have heaps of coverage. So just wet my brush down, get my paper towel out here. Put this in my bowls. I've got these nice mixing bowls. Mixing bowls help to just pop one in your paint, just like a shaker can. Helps to mix it up off of the bottom, so you get all your pigment mixed up, just like, you know, your rattle cans and that sort of thing. Alright. So the only issue that we're going to have with this is that in between we're going to have quite a bit of drying time, most probably. I'm going to move my head, because I think I tend to like painting near the top of this picture. There we go. Alright, so load our palette with a bit of paint here. So we've got plenty to work with. Probably put too much on there, but that's life. We'll go back to my camera element so I can change the focus again. because it's rubbish when it's on autofocus. So autofocus off. Drop it back a couple of notches so it's at a comfortable painting height and you can still see what I'm up to. Alright, so here goes nothing. So this is nope. There we go. Mornfang brown, or as I like to sometimes refer to it as poo brown or mud brown. All I'm trying to do here is get a bunch of coverage, work it into the base. I have seen a lot of people, like, they'll do their spray base black so that all of these recesses are very, very black. So you sort of get shadow work on it straight away. But you can go either way, my opinion. And remember, that's my opinion. I am not a professional, but I have this habit of spray basing all of my stuff in the light colours and working my way down in colour scale. Rather than up, which I think a lot of people do. So Focus, how was your weekend? Did you get up too much? Did you get out for dawn service on, out in your driveway that is, for dawn service on Saturday? Did you end up working the weekend? Need some more paint. course the chat box ends up being over the top of my, or behind my thing. Pretty chill without. Oh, yep. Yep. It is, it's a common story at the moment. It's great that you went out and you paid your respects. We didn't open until 12, obviously, as we weren't to do here in South Australia. Retail doesn't open until after 12, but yeah, got our respects in as well. I think at the moment with social isolation, it's more important than ever to show our respects, because this is probably the hardest that most of us have ever had it in our lives, and you got to think that the emotional trauma that comes from going to war is a lot harder than anything that we're facing at the moment, no matter what the comparisons are that people are putting on it. And I think if we don't show our respects, this generation's gonna not understand what it is that we've actually got. I mean, at the moment, a lot of our freedoms are taken away just by, this disease that's going around the world, stopping people from having those freedoms. And I think it's not fitting, but it's something to think about, or it was something to think about, or still is, that we have a lot of freedoms in this world, and something as fickle as a disease can take those away, and it's better than war and loss of losing your life that way. As for for not having any work, I'm sorry to hear that that's the case, the situation that you're in. Hopefully you're able to get some access to either job seeker or job keeper or whatever other the guy's falling off his stand, whatever other options the government's put out there for you. Trying to make sure that I hit up all the white showing through the paint. The good thing about this palette is that it does it is a wet palette, so it does help you to get some moisture into your paints so that they don't dry out too quickly, and helps to thin the paints so that they go a little bit further as well. Because it's always better to thin your paints down and put more coats on than it is to put on thick coats and lose details. Because the thicker the paint is, the less details you'll have show through, because it'll gunk up all the little pores in miniatures, or in this case all the little details on our wings. paint on the top here has almost dried already. Like good old Australian, South Australian, I suppose, low humidity this time of year. I got fairly chapped lips right now just because it was on the cool side today, and it's very dry as well. We have it very easy compared to having a go to war. Sadly feel like the generals. I think so too. I feel like the generation that I'm a part of, you know, the arguably I straddle the border between X and Gen X and Gen Y, but I tend to feel like I'm more a part of Gen Y. I feel like somewhere along the way we got a disconnect from our baby boomer parents, you know. I feel like we didn't, I don't want to blame parents for anything, but I feel like there was less emphasis on these things that have been happening for the last 60, 70 years, to the point where to us it probably felt like it was a chore going out for dawn service, or, you know, somebody else was going to just remind me all the time to do it. And I got to say that my whole life, like my day-to-day life, I probably take a lot of things like that for granted myself. I know I need to have actual reminders set all the time to remind me to get things done. It's probably one of the weakest parts of my personality, is my absent-mindedness. I get distracted easily, that sort of thing. Point of what I was saying, for instance. Yes, so the importance of things like the dawn service and remembering our fallen family and relatives and friends, because Anzacs aren't just a memory, they're the people in the armed forces today even, who are still arguably safeguarding our freedoms today. You know, say what you will about our presence in the Middle East and Afghanistan, but we're part of a coalition, and these are everyday people in Australia who, you know, we interact with, whether we know that they're in the armed forces or not, and they're just people like you and me, and there's a lot of shit that they have to go through in their lives to serve us little people at the bottom of society, so that we can, you know, not live with oppression and that sort of thing. People these days move too fast. Technology doesn't give yeah, absolutely. Technology takes a lot of focus away from the things that are important in life. I think that's probably been exacerbated at the moment, because, you know, you're watching me right now on Twitch or YouTube, and you know, you it's not as if it's something that you probably do on a day-to-day thing in real life. Like, you wouldn't just go to the shop just to watch me painting a bird, or maybe you would. paint this boy's pupper. Get in there, paint. Alright, these wings are touch dry. I'm liking the base coat colour that I got going on here. Like I said, I'm going to hit it with a second coat. Again, it's thinned down. Just to see if we can get a better solid sort of coverage of it. And then once I've got that done, I'll get the rest of that underside stowed. I don't know, that's not the right word. Covered off, I guess. It's not part that you're going to focus on when you're looking at it, but it could make or break it in the end, as they say. Good old bird painting. Add a bit more water to it. I gotta say, with the wet palette too, like I love what it does to keep the paints wet, but man, I spread out like anything on this thing. I just, with the dish palette, like most of the stuff stays pretty central there. Like it's in a little divot, so it doesn't really spread out much, but I'm a little bit out of control with my wet palette, just spreading it everywhere. So by dabbing it, the concept is that you're loading up the brush with paint, so you should be able to paint for a while. But I think because I'm thinning it down a bit, it's not necessarily flowing off the brush as quickly as I expect. I'm probably going a bit fast, impatient, a little bit stressed by, you know, this is that miniature that I've been waiting to paint for a while. But I do love, I think this brown was the right choice for the first bit. Really don't want to, yeah. That's it. It's one of those things too, like you'll start painting and you'll be like, oh, what am I doing? What have I done? I've picked the wrong colours or whatever. But then you just got to sort of knuckle down, push through it, because especially when you're starting out painting, stuff doesn't look right and you get angry with yourself. But the idea is you push through, you make every model a learning experience, you learn something from it that you move on. When you move on to the next model, you employ what you learnt. So and I gotta say, I tend to learn a lot every time that I paint. Like, that's an interesting concept. That's definitely something that could happen. A lot of painters that you watch, they'll do things like they'll get some sponge. They'll like a I can't think of what the dishwashing sponges are called. You know, the ones that they look like a sponge, and they come in bright colours like bright pink and bright yellow and blue and stuff. They'll put it on a plate. After soaking it in water, and then they'll put a bit of grease paper on it. But this paper, even though it looks like grease paper, it's not grease paper. It's almost like a coffee filter paper, I reckon. It just lets through a little bit of moisture, not too much, just to keep it wet, keep it damp even. This is like just really thinned down now, so see me putting it on these feet, how like just the white really just shows through it because it's really thinned down. So I'm just trying to catch all the white spots in the light and fill them up with paint. Because now that most of the figure is painted, just doing even just really thin paint is gonna blend it into what's around it, and it'll be fine. Just sit for a moment, clean this brush off. Yeah, so underneath the paper, there is like a sponge. It's very, very wet there. So if I go back to my camera settings, put him back onto autofocus. There we go. So this under here is a sponge. You can see there's a dry spot there. Just poke it a bit and it'll absorb some water from around it. And then it's just got a very thin parchment paper on top. It's almost like tracing paper. Like I said, there's like almost a coffee filter sort of paper, but really thin, just so that the moisture can come through the paper and keep your paints damp. Oh my goodness, I squished the bugger out of that brush while I was leaning on the table, the brush. Alright. Alright, so that's my base coat done on him. Go back to manual focus. We'll just give him a little bit to dry up. I can still see there's quite a bit of spots on it that are wet, so So the next colour I'm going to do VX88, which is almost like a I want to say a mustardy kind of brown. The colour reproduction isn't too accurate on there. I don't know if I can adjust that because, you know, I got pinkish hands and they're looking pretty blue on what I can see on my camera, on my feed on my screen. So for this I'm gonna use this number 2 brush, and all I'm aiming for is this layer of feathers through here. It's not going to matter if I run over onto these ones, because these ones are going to get hit with the dryad bark after. Yes, there are circumstances where you would paint onto wet paint, actually. So there's a technique called wet blending. And what it tends to be is a way of causing a gradient between two different locations on an item. So say for instance I had a miniature, and I'll try and use myself, I'll move to the right position to say for instance I had a miniature that was holding a torch, say like this handle is a torch, or this rattle can is a torch, as in a light, as in like a flaming torch. And I've got white skin, obviously, well, I do, and I might want to paint it that way. What I could do is I could shade the lower half of the body so that it's dark, and then I could start like up here with like, so paint the whole figure as a white person with their clothes and all that, and then start up here with like a yellow or a red tone, and from down here come up with like a darker tone, and in the middle you blend the two colours together. You just, while they're still wet, you mix them together to get a gradient effect from the bright lightness of the reflection, or the glow from the torch down here, and into the shadowiness further down. So that's one way of doing it. Yeah, give it a glow. I've got some figures that I've painted that work like that. Nothing that's currently here. It's at the shop at the moment. I've got the base box, or at least I'm pretty sure it's at the shop. Up above my table I've got all my board games, and some behind me, but no. There's a board game, a miniatures game that came out late last year called Marvel Crisis Protocol. And you know, as you might gather from the name Marvel, it's got all the Marvel superheroes type stuff in it. And in the base game you had Iron Man, Spider-Man, Captain America, Captain Marvel, and somebody else in the heroes. Who was the someone else? I can't think of who the someone else was, but I did paint them all. And then in the villain side you had Red Skull, Doc Ock, Ultron, and two others who are escaping me right now. I remember who the other Avengers style one was. It was Black Widow. Anyway, moral of the story: Red Skull was holding Tesseract out in front of his face like this. He was striking a very like formal pose and holding the Tesseract in front of him. And I took a blue around about this colour. Actually, I probably started around about that colour for the Tesseract. Then I dry brushed it with something like this colour, and then added white and white and white to it to get that. And then I watered it down a lot, and I ran it up his arm. He was wearing a black leather coat, and I ran that down his. Started with a very watered down amount at the top of his arm, and on his hand, and had it bleed down to the bottom of his arm. And I just used some clear medium, which is, it looks like this. You know, it looks white but it dries clear. And I sort of did that blending effect from the heavy blue down to just clear, and it sort of thins it out as you go along with the wet blending sort of thing. I didn't pull it off amazingly well, so I ended up doing what they call dry brushing over the top of it, where you basically get a flat brush like this guy, and you mash it into some paint, and then you mash it into your, that's cool. The game was okay. To be honest, I haven't ever been able to get a game out of it. I painted 10 figures, 2 cars, like a skip bin, and most of a building in like 3 days, and I got pretty burnt out because like I put a lot of detail into what I was doing, and they look amazing, but I just painted them all in such a short amount of time that like, you know, completely neglected my family for 2-3 days basically, and just because I wanted to have it ready for the release date. And then yeah, I have never really looked back at it, so it's pretty sad. Pardon me. But I have watched quite a few games from Atomic Mass Games on Facebook. They often post videos of themselves playing with their community in the US, because they play it at their local game store with their friends, and it looks like it plays really well. It's not like Warhammer, where you roll for attacks, roll for damage, then roll for defense. You just basically roll in some dice, and if they hit, they hit. And you got some crazy things like your epic size players like Ultron, Doc Ock, Hulk. They can pick up cars and stuff and throw them at people, and then they deal damage, and you might accidentally hit somebody else on the way through. It's quite a fun looking game, even if I haven't been able to get a game with it. So, alright, this guy's looking like he's drying, so I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah, the Tesseract was really cool, but I ended up for most of it dry brushing the glow effect over the top of what I had tried to do with the wet blending. Alright, get our VX88. Gonna drop a nice little bowl in there because that's nowhere near mixed. Gonna go back to my subject matter for a second. It's actually looking like it's going to be this little row of feathers along here. Oh, that's water. This little row of feathers along here and along here, and then down the middle of here. Water. Yep. And then we'll do these two, a mixture of dryad bark and something a little bit lighter, I reckon. It's a work in progress. Don't panic. Oh, don't worry. I live in the sticks. Let's put it that way. I'm on site to site. What they call WiMAX internet. I wasn't able to stream on Friday because it was raining, and I did a test on the stream, and basically it went, nah, don't want to upload. So I ended up just watching one of my friends streaming instead, which wasn't fantastic either. The download is also affected by rain. It's just one of the drawbacks of our world-class Australian NBN internet. When a government entity starts the pain of horrible internet, yeah. When the government does deals with corporations, private enterprise to think that they're going to shortcut stuff, but the private enterprise has always got the leg up on them. They know what they're doing. They're not just going to sign up to something that they're not going to win on. Oof. Well, actually, I suppose I should reiterate, because really, I'm not on NBN. I'm on a separate carriers network because they had a superior network in this area prior to the NBN rollout. And as it turns out, because I have friends and family who have transitioned onto the NBN's fixed wireless system, I'm getting better speeds than they are from my WiMAX, as the technology is called. Yeah, Elon Musk. That guy. He knows how to do business. It's funny how Tesla has to be one of the only, and I'm sure that I'm missing something somewhere with their business model, but they seem to be the only private enterprise that actually thinks that doing stuff for people is where you're gonna, benefiting public is better than just going, haha, how can I make a quick buck for as little as possible? Probably went the wrong way around. Usually you hit your darker colours first and then work your way up to your lighter colours. So I was really thinking back on it, because it's easier to paint over darker colours than lighter colours, but whatever. I reckon that's looking pretty good. it's interesting if you look like. So I used to work for a vehicle manufacturer here in Adelaide, and if you look at what we were doing manufacturing those vehicles, it was basically people going, what my impression of it is basically people in a back room somewhere going, what's going to get us that we need to look like we're innovating to be able to maintain or increase the value of the perceived value of the product that we're selling. So you add features that foreign cars have been selling as a standard for a while, and you tout it as, we're doing this now, pay us the money, and you get your training, you do the things, but you're still building a car that's probably running on technology that's 10 years older than a lot of the other cars at the same price point, honestly. My humble opinion. And then you look at Tesla and you look at Elon Musk and he goes, I'm going to build this car. It's going to run on electric power. I want to sell X number of these in Y amount of time so that we can fund the next generation of this vehicle at the end of Y amount of time. And the next vehicle the next vehicle comes along, did come along on time, and he went, alright, well, this vehicle we're going to sell for A amount of coin for B amount of time, and it was a little bit cheaper and had some slightly better technology, and you were paying, and we're going to use what we get from this vehicle to develop our next generation after that. And he went about it and he did it, and we had we're at the 4th or 5th generation of the Tesla vehicles at the moment, and they've gone down to a third in price, and the features have just gone full tilt. I mean, it's just almost the complete opposite of the way that the industry seems to work. I'm not a fan of Apple anyway, man. Apple are a cancer, I feel, on the world, gouging the money out of people. Man, look at that. I'm pretty stoked about that so far. Got to figure out what I'm doing underneath now. See if I can find something for the underneath of the wing. Ooh, that's different. All right. Ooh. Goodness gracious. I'm going to pull that off. Well, I can tell from this that this is not a wedge tail eagle, because if I transition back to our other where did all my windows go? parked on the other bloody... If I transition back over here, you can see these feathers are a lot further up the wing than that one, so... I mean, that's... who's to say that this is an accurate representation of an eagle, but... Come back over here. We're getting into some socio-economic political stuff here, mate. Basically, the way I see it, and my views are probably very socialist, I feel as though the capitalism has its place in the society, but the way that it's played out probably isn't as Kinsey had ever expected it to be. I can't think of the names of any of the other fathers of capitalism, but the free market and that sort of stuff has just sort of gotten a little bit out of hand, I think, especially with, like, you know, yeah, that's it, they're almost white, so I'm thinking, like, I'll sort of stifle this along here, which is just a technical term for I'll bloody throw it everywhere and just sort of mix it in a bit, and then I'll do the same thing again but with a slightly lighter shade as we point out towards the end of the feathers. Yes, let's talk capitalism some more. I feel like it's like they say with socialism, in a lot of cases, good in theory, but when they've put it into practice, it hasn't been fantastic. I mean, you look at China and Korea and those sorts of states, like, the concept was good, and then somebody took it off the rails and maybe made it do what it wasn't supposed to do. I mean, you look at the Western democracies like America. Where are we? Here we are. And like, when your business is told that its future hinges on future investment from stockholders, then you're held to ransom. You must make those sales. You must generate those profits. And if your profits aren't high enough, then you lose your investors. They take their money elsewhere. Your business begins to fail, and you know, it basically drives ethics out of the business because you have to make the monies. That's why your businesses like the Commonwealth Bank, like, this is my understanding, is probably very rudimentary, but your big boys like the Commonwealth Bank, the ANZ Bank, those sorts of guys, they're like, yay, record profits. By the way, we're going to shut 300 locations and sack, well, 300 is probably extreme, but you know, we're going to close 50 locations and sack 300 people, you know, like, because they have to maintain that profit margin year after year. Yeah, there needs to be a balance for sure. I'm not going to say that, for a minute that our business doesn't hinge on people spending money and, putting money in our pockets, but that's arguably how a business in our position should work. Like, the business is there to pay a wage, put food on the table, expand the range, hopefully we get the nice things out of life. I think a lot of people think that we're rolling in the monies, but we actually live pretty light because our overarching focus is on serving the community that we've been building the last couple of years. At the moment, Wayne and Alicia are off working at Bunnings primarily and drawing most of their wage from Bunnos, where they had existing jobs, and therefore Mark and I are being supported even with the reduced income of the business. So everybody's doing it tough, even us, even as successful as we look. Yeah, we love our community. We just, I don't know. I get a feel from a couple of other stores that they're all about just sell. Like, they come across that sometimes they come across with their community. Some of them seem to focus in on certain communities more than others. I try to make sure that most of our communities have, some connection to us. Like, I try to get into a lot of the games that are being played. Oh, I'm really liking this. I'm really happy that I went with that colour scheme. So now what'll happen is I'll do a similar sort of thing, but it'll just be like the further out parts of the wings. We'll keep this all the same colour that it is now. Might even dull them down a bit because it is underneath the wing, and then we are still going to get this dark colour through these feathers. Feeling really good about this. What I'm actually going to do, and then these ones here, I'm sort of going to lighten up, probably this same colour, but just make it a bit lighter through there as well. Where was that picture that I was looking at before? Not that one, that one. So I transition back again. Can I make this big? Big. Open a new tab. Open image in new tab. Can we zoom in? Control plus is my friend. So, so we'll darken down, transition back, there we go, we'll darken down all these tail feathers with the dryad bark, but here, these ones, I'll mix this VX88 with a bit of stone, I reckon. What stone have I got? I reckon this carrot stone to lighten it up even more, and then we'll probably do like a very thin layer of the Carrick stone right on the end. Sorry, just reading your last post. Yeah, yep, definitely. It's those too big to fail brands now as well, which is the big thing. Like your Apple, Walmart. Trying to think of some other really big international ones. They're too big to fail. They bailed them out during the GFC. They'll continue to support them now, unfortunately. So yes, so Carrick stone. We'll get in the stone. We'll transition. Actually, what I might do, because this is still wet on the palette, put the little ball bearing into the Carrick stone. So you see me putting these bearings in, these shaker balls. I only got them recently, so a lot of these. Welcome, Light of Dawn. Thank you for following. A lot of these paints I haven't had shaker balls in before, and I've been painting for quite a while now, to the point where, actually, I don't think I need to. We'll hit it with the Bane Blade Brown, which I just realised I bought the other day. Oh man, we could go through even more transitions. I'll hit it with Bane Blade Brown first, and then we'll hit it with Carrick Stone for our lightest colour. Look at that. Now we're cooking with gas. Oh, brand new. Crack the seal on that guy. So you got to bear in mind, guys, that, like I've said before, like I've been painting for probably a year and a half now. So all of these paints that I've got, like, I've built up over time, and working in the store and that, you know, every now and then I just grab a couple of paints and buy them before I come home. I don't know if that's... Come on, catch up. Where's that camera setting? That focus has been autoed again. There we go, look at that down there. New paints. No, I never smell the paint. It scares me too much. And as with that video that I linked to earlier, when, like, it doesn't matter if there's like solid transition between colors, because once we hit it with the wash later, it's going to really, like, what's the word? It's going to blend those colours together anyway a lot more. Just water this down a bit more. So I don't lose the detail. And I'm not like putting full coverage on of this paint. Because it's sort of wanting to transition it, I'm just sort of roughly rubbing it over the existing paint that I've already done there, so you get some coverage. And you know, a feather's not going to be a, you know, perfect gradient anyway, so you'll have some unique colour showing through it at any point. Like with this one I could bring it right up the top and have the next one transition back out of it. Oh, I barely got it on camera, I'm sorry. The cool thing about this is like the two sides of the wings don't have to mirror each other either. Like, you know, like I was just saying, like it's not going to be perfect, it's not going to be symmetrical, so it doesn't matter if, you know, they're not exactly the same colour right the way through, or it transitions at a different point on a feather somewhere, or, you know, if one feather just happens to be a lot darker than another at some point in time. Like, the thing that I fear most with painting this is just that I'm not thinning my paint enough and I'm going to lose details in those feathers. That's the thing that has really, like, gotten me for a while. Like, probably, as in, is the reason why it's been, you know, sitting on my desk for a year and a half, not doing anything. Falling off your base. You can. There's a product that you can get online and at your friendly local hardware store called what is it called? It's called something green. Simple Green, and it will strip the enamel paint straight off of the acrylic paint. Sorry, straight off of your models, but it won't necessarily damage the resin or plastic underneath. There are some people out there who swear by the stuff. They'll buy old minis, they'll chuck them in a bucket full of Simple Green. There are memes about Simple Green. People, you know, am I not clean enough? I better drink some Simple Green. Yeah, don't do that. That was the Bane Blade. Now we'll get onto the Carrick Stone. See that gradient of colour between these three. Ooh, it's a bit thick. What are you down? No, I'm not on the Animal Crossing grind. So I got Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild a couple of weeks ago. I played quite a bit of that with my young fella. Oof. It's time for a smaller brush. So I discovered that's the first Zelda game that I've ever played, so I found that to be quite an interesting game. Probably played about 30 or 40 hours of that so far, which is not much by gaming standards, but I was having fun playing that. Like I said, first Zelda game that I've played, so it's been a very interesting learning curve. But then I've played a lot of Realm Royale lately, which is like a PUBG style game, King of the Hill style game. With a leveling mechanic in it. So as you level up, you've got a mastery tree, and you can get better at. If you're the assassin, you get better at the techniques that hide, and if you're the mage, you get better at the techniques of like healing and gear like this. If you're the barbarian, you get better at throwing weapons and that sort of thing. It's been pretty good. I've been doing that with Spectral Saint. He's been streaming it almost every day for the last week or so, and I think my involvement has probably exacerbated that. It's gone on quite a tear since I hooked into it with him. There's a really nice guy that frequents our store. I wouldn't blame you for going to check out his stream. pretty sure he's streaming like right now. That was what those pings were earlier. He's just started a new Facebook chat group with all the guys that we've been playing with recently. He's got a couple of subs on there that have a couple of followers on there that have joined in with us. And we've been having some pretty good success with the games that we've been playing, actually. And I've been having quite a good time. Zelda franchise. More Skyrim than Zelda. Yeah, somewhat. Realm Royale is cross-platform. It is on PS4. It is on Xbox. It is on Switch. It is on PC. And just today, my son was very coy, and my wife had to get it out of him had to get him to come and tell me about the afternoon that he had, because he logged into my account, and after I showed him the game the other day, and he won 5 games back to back, and holy guacamole, that's honestly quite an achievement for a young fella of his age who hasn't played much as far as first person shooters go, and has barely played anything like that. He's more of a Minecraft sort of fella. Oh man, this is looking awesome. I'm really excited about this. Very excited about this. Ah! I'm glad that I got that push last week to make the commitment to pay him. I think that's probably one of the best things that's going to come out of streaming too, is being able to share my experiences with other people. So, it's hard to share those experiences with people like now, but even in better times, like I never really put myself in a position where I was like, hey, come and paint with me, we'll hang out and paint and such. Whereas like doing it like this, I can commit to regularly painting on a Monday night from 9:30 and chatting with people like yourself and others, and maybe it means that I can share those experiences with people. We can chat about these sorts of things, and if you and other people start painting too, maybe that's something that we do together on a Monday night. And we can share our experiences, and that's a bit thick. Let's water that down a bit on the body. gives me a bit of confidence showing off what I can do, and maybe, you know, inspire some people to do some painting as well who haven't done it before. I mean, that's good for me in multiple ways. I mean, promote some business, promote myself. Get a bit of a twingy in my back there. It's a bit cold tonight. I think I forgot to hit this with the previous colour. This is a really bold transition. Yeah, it's pretty big. My hope is that when we get to go back to a bit more normalcy, we can get some of our Learn to Paint sessions with Mark going again. I'm more of a doer than a shower, if you get my meaning. Like, I struggle to sit back. That doesn't even make sense. Doer and shower are the same thing, really. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm doing it and showing it. More of a show you examples than a teach you how sort of thing. Oh, so good. This transition is so good. I'm so happy. Alright. I think it's time. It's time to get into this dryad bark. That's our dark colour that we're going to do all the top wingtips with. We're going to do, I think, the underbody with. Yeah, definitely harder to teach than show. Alright, transitioning back to this guy. So looking at this doodad, so we're going to put this dark colour along here and along here. Come back here to where was our undercarriage photo. No, this one here. Oh, it'd be nice if we could get a big version of that. No, I want a big version of that. No, it'll have to do. So looking at that, like, I almost feel like between So I feel like we're going to get these feathers nice and dark. We're going to leave that row how we've got it. We're going to get these nice and dark because it's basically we're pushing this down to here. This is going to be nice and dark. We can layer it on this side, layer it darker as we move towards the front and under his neck. Keep the plumage on the back of his neck this nice colour. Be quiet, speaker, headphone cable. Tail nice and dark. Yeah. And then when we go to the underneath, I don't know how I'm going to transition back to that. I think we'll just we'll see, but we'll do that. We'll darken down the leading edge and under his neck and under his body. Yeah, I reckon that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do. Let's come back over here, back to our friend. Nice. Absolutely. Like, there are so many transitions where things cross over in the world. Like, you can take skills from all sorts of work and transition it into other things. There's a lot of fine mechanical work with putting together this type of model. Like, there are so many pieces that go into making this guy, and I probably would have found it at that child of mine is cheeky as he's just been sticking these little tufts to everything lately. He's just been hiding them. Came home the other day to find that they'd been stuck all over my camera, everything. It's a cheeky bugger. Yes, mechanical things. And then, yeah, art. Art is definitely something that has many different veins that cross over. Just gotta sort of, I guess, put in the yards, give it a go, see what it's all about. Hopefully come out the other side generally unscathed. If you learn something, even if you make mistakes, as they say, you learn something. That's what's important. Yeah, I know, right? The ghost guy is nuts. Yes, that's one of my proudest pizzas, and I'm just pizza. It's definitely not a pizza. One of my proudest pieces at the moment, and he sits there just off to the side of me. Just I look at him and I think, I did that. If I did that, I can do a lot of things. It's very inspiring to know that you can do these things. That one was very much a product of watching YouTube videos and learning all the little techniques. Again, learning. Lots and lots of learning. I think even if you make mistakes, even if you make mistakes, if you walk away after learning something from your mistakes, you were successful. Success isn't always getting things right. Sometimes success comes from learning how to get it right next time. no way somebody who did well in painting when I was in school or anything like that. I half-assed my way through art class. As soon as I was able to get out of there, I did. It was not my jam. Not even the girls were enough to keep me there. I think I might transition back up to a bigger brush. Not really layering into it here. I'm trying to get like a base coverage again, like I was when I did the first line there. So I'm going to move back up to the 2. Yeah, it's coloured, but there's no paint in it. Went a little bit outside. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's easy to fail at something if you think of it as a failure. So the hard part here is not messing the underside as I go through and paint this. I've painted outside the lines a little bit here, and that's what I was worried about earlier when I said I should have started with the darkest colours and then worked my way lighter, but that's not to worry. You know, we're going to come back later, we're going to wash all this down with a brown wash, and then go back over everything pretty much and colour it all again anyway, so I think just reading what you said again, I think and also going back to what we were saying quite a while ago about remembrance over the weekend. I think it's actually quite easy to get caught up with in the speed of life nowadays and forget about the fact that, you know, life is about all these experiences, yours and other people's. And if you fail to learn from what other people have done, and fail to learn from what you've done, failures and successes through reflection, you're really doing yourself a disservice. And others around you. Like, think about all those people that have come before us and have done all this stuff before. This is why, I spend a lot of time, a lot of my spare time, my quiet time, watching people do things. And I don't mean that in a creepy way. I don't mean that in a I go to my neighbour's house and look in their window kind of way. I mean I jump on YouTube and I watch people paint stuff. Like, not in the same format that I'm doing right here where, you're watching me and we're now up to 2.5 hours into the stream. I mean people doing very heavily edited videos where they cut out 90% of what they've done because they're cutting out all of that stuff that doesn't matter, and they're sort of focusing on the things that have what they perceive to be the most value. Look at that wing, would you? Oh, again, reflection, stopping and reflecting and going, oh my goodness, look at it, look at me, come here. Doesn't have the thickest coverage, but we get to get a second turnover on this one anyway. We'll come back to it and add another layer after and thicken up the colour, I reckon, closer up here. Let the colour on the end still show a bit through. Just trying to clean up the edges so it's not all the more reddier brown. Oh, some people are just pegged on the experience. If you want a shortcut, you have to spend time watching other people do things. Again, I take us back to days of yore, working in a factory. That place wouldn't have been as efficient as it was if people weren't trained correctly and teaching people the little tricks on how to fit parts and stuff like that. If everybody had to learn from scratch, it's such a long process. You learn from what other people do, even if you can't paint, if you're watching people like you are now, learn what the techniques that they're doing to paint. I mean, you look here, like that's 3 layers of colour in there that I've just stifled over the top of each other. You can almost not even notice the transition between them. There are some people who I would really like to have been watching this stream live who I'm pretty certain aren't. But I'll share the video with them after I post the video onto YouTube as well, because they had been not harassing, but been wondering when it was going to be that I hit up the bird as well. Water right there. Why did I go for more? They're missing out. They are. Thank you. Alright, I feel a bit awkward at the moment trying to get to hold in the right position to do this bit. Having my hands as far apart as they are, I feel like I need a rest. One hand on the other, like I would. Like over here, like I can rest on my knuckles, but over the other side it's a bit difficult, especially when I'm a right-hander, so not an ambi or anything. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can go to the point of, you know, mixing some lighter browns into the darker brown, like the palette mix that we got here. Like I could mix in between each of these to get even more shades. I could mix this into this to get a slightly different shade, and you know, there's so many things that you can do. I'm not 100% about it, but you know, it can be done. Yeah, I'm a bit like that too. Just trying to take a screenshot of this boy right now. Doodle-doo. Alright, need a bit more paint on my palette. Yep, that's not how you spell easy. Alright. Alright. I think just going back to what you posted just before, like sucking the money, I think it all depends on how far you want to go. Like if you get yourself a nice kit, you can probably go for a while without spending much. And like I've bought a lot of colours, and you know, it's easy for me because, you know, it's my business. I've bought them from myself at a, you know, the price that I pay for them to sell in my store, but they are going to last you a lot of models. They are going to give you a lot of joy, I guess, if you feel that that's what you will get out of it. So it really depends on how much you value it, I guess, and that's capitalist talk right there, as we were talking about earlier. It's what is the sales pitch here? Like, you got to do what you want to do. I'm not going to tell you what you want to do. I originally didn't think anybody was going to bother watching me at all. I just wanted to do this to connect with people while we're on COVID restrictions. Record some of my stuff, for some of my painting, just for posterity's sake, I guess. If I make some friends along the way, yeah. How long do my paints last? Most of these paints are still the original ones that I bought. The contrast stuff that you saw me doing those Stormcasts with last week, they'd be my newest paints. This VX88 is one of my originals. I haven't painted with it much. In fact, this Jacaro orange, no, not that one. This Jacaro orange, because this one's number 2. This Jacaro orange was the first paint that I bought to do town. As you can see, it's pretty low. Well, maybe you can't see because I didn't really look at what the focus was like. See, she's pretty low. She's a bit gunky under the lid, but for the most part, pretty solid. This is Baden Black. I would have bought around the same time. He's pretty low. So we're talking like 18 months for a $6.50 pot of paint. And you don't have to buy these paints. I mean, you can hit up Spotlight, you can hit up Ned's. Like, I'm not going to guarantee that you're going to get the best quality paint, but you can paint with whatever you can afford. Like, sure, I'd love you to come and buy paint from me, and you know, I can tell you what Vallejo feels like to paint with. I can tell you what Citadel feels like to paint with. Like, where have I got this dirt from? Like, to me, in my opinion, what they feel like to paint with. And that is, like, there is a very consistent experience with these paints. I could tell you that the Citadel is probably another third as concentrated as the Vallejo paint. I haven't worked with that Bones paint yet, so I don't know what that's going to be like. Man, we didn't do the underside of the tail. That's alright. We can come back to that. So, I'm going to hit up this underbody. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to transition it. And we're going to do the front of the wing. Yeah. This is the thing, like, you can look at it and go, hey, I want to buy 30 paints. You know, 30 by 6.5. $195-ish. Yep, $195-ish. I think my numbers are right there. 139. Say for instance, $195, right? $200. You got 30 odd paints. You're going to cover most of the spectrum there. You're going to get a couple of colours, maybe 2 or 3 in each colour. So because there's 30 minutes left off stream. Yeah, this is true. I was just actually looking at the clock going, how much time do I have left? I promise that this one I will continue painting next Monday. I will put it aside so I can paint it while you're around. I mean, given if you have the time to next week to watch, I'm really stoked about where it's at so far. Still a lot more to do, so but we're not there yet. So paints, $200, 30 paints, lasting you year and a half, 2 years, depending on how much you paint, how much you hit up each colour, that sort of thing. Getting you 2 or 3 shades. You know, you got different sort of shades as well. Like you'll have a yellowy green and a bluish green. You'll have a. You will be there, yeah. And it also depends on what styles of paint, because like you got bases. So like VX88, which, you know, I've been layering with, is a base. So it's got a really solid colour in it. The Carrick Stone is a layer, so it's going to have slightly more translucent. The Mornfang that we started with is a base, so it's got solid colour. Dryad Bark is a base. She's pretty solid. And you know, that just means that, you know, if you, it's going to take a bit more watering down to blend a base into a layer, or less water to blend a layer into a base, I guess, or to be solid over a base. I'm really keen about where we're at with this, though. Just trying to thin this paint right down. We'll give it a quick second coat on these wings and the tail, just to give it really solid coverage of the wings and the tail, because there's still quite a bit of the orangey, well, the reddish brown coming through, whereas I would call this a blackish brown. It's more on the blackish side than the reddish side of brown right now. Remember saying to somebody that I would record the stream and put it up on the YouTube for posterity, for them to watch it later because they're working, and just had to check to make sure that I remembered to hit the record button. They too can laugh at the first 5 minutes of the stream where I forgot to turn my microphone on. I forgot where I got to. I looked away. I feel like my wet palette is maybe drying out a bit, so after I finish painting tonight, I'm going to add probably another couple of teaspoons of water to it, just to keep my paints nice and damp for next week. Can you tell me, Focus, please, whether this audio is coming through, the background audio has been coming through well tonight? I think I got the volume level right, so that it doesn't interfere with my speech, but thank you for that. I got to say, I've grown in confidence the last couple of streams. This interaction really helps. Yes, can you let me know if the background music is coming through too strong, or whether it's sort of at a nice level? So hopefully I can use it again for next time. Nice. That's good, that's good. I just feel like it's not too distracting for me painting. Like, I think last week I was playing like a bit of a 90s alternative rock sort of thing. I think I got a bit distracted by it last week, and I think having just this nice calming stuff playing, it's not too overbearing, and oh yes, I definitely listen to a little bit of lo-fi sometimes when I just need to like I might be out in the garden working, and if I'm not in the mood for rock, and if I'm not listening to podcasts, I'll hit up some lo-fi. I didn't even think of the lo-fi channels. Like I said, this is taken straight off of I've just got I'll show it to you. I shows you. If I transition back over here, so I have this running in the background. So this is Royal Lab stats. It's just coronavirus stats, and like I have this running on my computer every now and then. Just I like, it's a little bit sadistic, but I like to sit here and see what's going on around the world. Australia's right around here. A couple of days ago we were up here. By a couple of days, I'm probably talking 7 or 8 days. But, you know, since Easter weekend, with Australia flattening the curve, we've really, been pulling it together, and we're moving down the ranks rather than up the ranks, which, is a good situation to be in. I mean, it's not ideal for the world as a whole, but it's definitely where I think we want to be over time. And if I switch back half, that's it. Yeah, not too intrusive. I've got a couple of lo-fi stations on my YouTube that I really enjoy listening to when it's nice and quiet around. Just want to chill out. Yes, America's having a bit of an issue. I've seen a couple of graphs that just make me shake my head. I don't understand the motivation behind their president at the moment with what they're doing. Thanks, Casual Painter. this is what we've been painting tonight. Started off white, and we've done some base coating with some Mornfang brown that you can see here. We then started the second layer of feathers with some XV88 from Citadel. Then we got into some Baneblade brown from Citadel and layered it into some Carrick stone. And right now I'm hitting up the longer feathers. I think they're called the pin feathers, with some dryad bark. Sort of come in at the tail end of our of my stream here. I've only got about 16-17 minutes left of what I would like to be doing on a Monday night, but you're welcome to hang about and do some interacting and stuff. Any questions, feel free. Focus and I here, we're just chatting about a little bit of COVID stuff and politics. So probably one of the things that I've noticed most about these synthetic brushes that I got, focus, they're holding a lot of pigment up the brush, but they're not really releasing it that well. Which, my understanding with your horsehair brushes and stuff like that, it tends to run onto the figure a bit more. Yeah, definitely a little bit of everything, and I think that's a bit of my personality. I like having a good chin wag. And I think we've had a pretty good run here with the bird. Like I said, I'll hold on to him this week, and where I did the whole the whole Stormcast last week, away from camera, just to get them finished off for this week, because I did want to do this bird this week, or start the bird this week. So I'll just, bird will rest on his laurels for the week, and we'll come back to it next Monday. I'm not gonna dive into another colour yet, so I'll leave it at that. Let me find no water in the vicinity. Just realised I haven't taken a break for a drink or anything tonight. Getting a bit dry, but I will get some water into this palette. Another bit of water into this palette to hold these colours for next week. Just to eat up a little bit of time here before we go, I'll just show you the different colour schemes that I've done for these Stormcast, my models that I had previously. Oh yeah, it's mad how quickly it can transition. I'm going to change the focus on back to autofocus again, so he can be front and center. There we go. So, let's whip out. In fact, I'm going to grab the last one that I painted. So this was the last of the sacrosanct that I painted from last week. Let's go back to our manual focus. So when I finished on the stream, I'm pretty sure with these guys, I was actually on the sequitors, which are these ones. I'd only done the solid Dark Angels green on the armor and painted the cloaks with the Agaros dunes. The pauldrons I've obviously touched up with some very light grey. Hit up like the tassels on the bottom of that front of the cloak there with some deep red. The handle's got a very royalish sort of pink to it. Looks terrible. Start again. Thanks. So that's what I was doing last week, these guys. So I've done a full set of 7 of those. Previous to that, I was working on these orc boys. These, and this is probably the only the second time that I've really shown these off. I tend to put a lot of photos on our Facebook page, or my Facebook page, of units, and I just keep forgetting to post photos of these boys. There's a bit of diorama work done on the base on this one, whereas the other things that I've shown off I haven't really done any of that with yet. So those are the orc boys. Another paint scheme here for a Justica Prime. He's all silver metallic with some Flesh Terrors red on the pauldrons and on the back of his I don't even know what you would call that, but the hangy bit between his legs, and then some more diorama on the base there. This one's very I did like a very swampy sort of looking thing. These guys with the magnetized arms, I think I showed you last week as well. So I've got a whole bunch of different sets of arms that can go on to these guys. There's 4 of them, and they've got very shiny white marbly sort of armor with gold trims on them. Going even further back in time, these are the ones. These guys all go with. Yeah, that's it. So, oh no, birdie boy, knocked down, bird down, bird down. Obviously, I've shown you quite a bit of this guy. Oh, I can't even get him fully in frame. I need to change the focus slightly. So this guy, the wet palette is great fun, Ravenspawn. I was just saying before you came in that I need to add a couple of extra teaspoons of water to it at the moment. She's getting a bit dry, but so the guy on the horse, these are the guys that go with the rest of the warband. Like, he's not part of my Warcry warband for him, but these are the guys that are in that warband of Nighthaunt. So there's that dude. These little chain rasps. I haven't finished off their basing yet. I've still got plenty of time to get to them. I might do it after I finish the bird. I might do a finish the bird next week. I might do a bit of showing on how I do my bases. I did learn quite a bit of the basing from a local at our store who's said that he might do some tutorial videos for us to put up on our YouTube page. Nice fella by the name of James. He's done a fantastic job with that stuff. I feel like I learnt quite a bit from him and what he's done. I really love this one too. That sort of goat skull sort of gets me going on this one, and then the rust on the blade as well. Yeah. So that's the Nighthaunt guys that I've got, and then last but not least, these guys are some of the guys that I'm really proud of too, with bases and painting. This was the first Stormcast Eternal Warband that I did for Warcry. These are the guys that I put on the table when I go and play at the moment. Well, by at the moment I mean have done in the past and will continue to do so in the future. Sort of try to do a bit of a glowy thing with this sword. Focus. I've been putting in a lot of work to a lot of these models in the last year or so. So I'm sorry that I'm just making your head buzz. There are a lot of things where I look at these and I go, there are things that I would change, but at the same time I won't change them because that's where the learning comes into it. I go, alright, that's what I'd change, so I'll change it next time. I really enjoy doing these rocks on my bases. So that's a white quartzite rock that I glued on, then I put texture paint around it, put some painted over the texture paint, and then this guy actually comes off the base, so texture paint around it, put some little gravel into it, dry brushed over the top of it, drilled a hole in it and put this little flower in. The flower is actually, like, it kind of looks like a tulip, but it's actually like a stack of flowers in there. It's got a name, but I can't think of what it was. And then, you know, paint the rock, dry brush the rock, dry brush it a second colour, and it just looks awesome. I really, these guys and this guy are my proudest models in my collection at the moment that I've done. This guy is in serious need of basing, so he's going to be one of the ones that I'll base when I do that. So, and and my last dude, this is like the leader of this group, and so that you might have noticed that the bases have all got different colours around the rim. That is because I wasn't using the what you see is what you get theory with this warband. I didn't have the right models for this this faction. As you can see here, what I've done is I've matched the base colours with a little dot on the cards that I want them to represent. So the blue guy, for instance, so the guy on the card in this game is a Justicar, and the guy that I've painted up is a Sequitur. My understanding is that Justicars are more of a melee smash and crash and bunch of dudes, and the Sequiturs have some level of spell casting in the lore of Age of Sigmar. And then this guy on the green one is a Judicator or a Justicar. No, yeah, Judicator. I didn't have any Judicators, so this guy is what they term a Castigator. So I have put him in its place, and then again, green base, green dot. You just talk to your play groups when you're playing these games, and you say, hey, look, this is what I've done, this is how I'm getting models on table. That's a Paladin Prime, I believe, and I've used what I believe is a Sequitur Prime, I think, to represent that character. And that's, yeah, so that's what I've done, and I can't wait until we get to go back to playing games so I can put my Warcry Warbands back on the table. This is a skirmish game, uses a small number of units per team, rather than massive squads. And as far as like the game goes, I like shorter games because it means if I want to get a game in before work, when I go to the shop, I can organise a game with somebody, we can smash out one or two quick games and then just go for it. I've also got these guys. I've got a couple of minutes left here. These are some of the guys that I painted up last year. This is for Blood Bowl, which is a cross between fantasy combat and American football, American style football. So you can either go to score or you can just go and smash the people. So absolutely, the old isolation is definitely sucking it right now, I gotta say. I'm not as affected as most people because I get to go to work, but and people come into the store and come and chat with me, but it's hard to tell people, look, I love that you're here and you want to chat and I miss this, but I can't let you stay in the store for too long. We need to make sure that people are safe and stuff like that. So the longer you're in the store, the more likely, it's not necessarily a round gauler, but better safe than sorry. So these guys also had a lot of fun painting. These guys are a mixture of classic painting like I was doing with the bird tonight, and the contrast painting, which I showed you last week with those castigators. So focusing on that dude's butt a little bit too much. I've got a human team at the shop for these guys for this game as well, because this is all from the base game. So orcs versus humans. So for the human team, I bought an ogre to add in. So this is the ogre team member. I just realised I haven't put any decals on him, so he doesn't have the team markings at all. One of my shitty early attempts at putting eyes on a guy. And then for the orcs, I've actually subbed in this troll as an add-in player. So this troll is actually from another game called War Machine. War Hordes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the Hordes one that it's from. In the same way that Warhammer has Warhammer 40,000, which is their futuristic sort of version, and Age of Sigmar is more of fantasy. My understanding is that with War Machine you have Hordes and War Machine, which is more robots and stuff. So this is my troll for that. So he's I think he's a bit smaller than what they expect him to be, but he's still bigger than like most of the units in this team. This is a Black Orc, so this dude's supposed to be like the biggest overgrown orc, and then the troll is supposed to be like probably a bit. The Black Orc's probably supposed to come up to like his waist height, which he really doesn't. He comes up to like his shoulder height, sort of thing. But yeah, that's my Blood Bowl team. Just showing off some of my stuff to you guys before I sign off. And yeah, there are all sorts of games that you can get into. As you might have noticed from like all the stuff that I show you, like I'm like 90% into the painting first. 90's probably a bit much. Probably like 70-30. I love painting. I find it very cathartic to just, you know, hang out and paint, as you may have noticed. And at the same time, like, I love these little games. They are all very quite fun. So I am going to sign off now. Thank you very much for coming and watching the stream. Thank you very much for hanging out with me and watching as the bird takes shape from a white canvas to what he is so far. I will, as I said earlier, I will not continue this guide during the week like I did with last week's ones, but I will continue it next Monday, so that we can all follow along with Mr. Eagle together. I'm actually pretty proud of where he's gotten to so far. Like I said last week to Focus and some others that were in the stream, I've been quite intimidated by it up until now. Had all of these things that I had in mind for it. I'll do a quick switch to the other form so you can see what we've been working off tonight. So these are a couple of stock photos off of Google that we've been working with. We just did a search for a wedge-tailed eagle, and yeah, these are the things that we're using as our basis, and using a bit of creative license to actually get it onto our birdie canvas. So I'm going to stop dribbling now, and thank you so much for coming out. Thank you to everybody who followed. Thank you for, you know, just hanging out. I don't know if saying supporting me is really what it is just yet. I'm just hoping that people are coming out to check it out and have a bit of a chinwag and hang out. Alright, stop talking now. Stop talking. Have a good night, guys. I will catch you next time.